Welcome, one and all, to Octo Jam 9. This is the 9th annual Chip 8 Game Jam. Can you believe we've been doing this for 9 years? The idea is that every year during the month of October, we invite anybody who's interested to make new software for a very old game console called Chip 8 that dates back to about 1977. As we're going to play through all of the games that were submitted, in the driver's seat, we've got John Turp.
Hello.
We're also joined by Mastagopherin.
Hello there.
And Everdread.
Hey, it's me, Everdread. How's it going?
And I'm John Ernest, also known as Internet Janitor. Let's get started.
All right, yeah, let's get started.
Games!
So the first game we're going to play here is Octress.
Octress. So this is, as the name might suggest, it's exactly what it says on the packet.
I love the hat. I like these pieces. They seem to have a slightly different pixel size than I would expect.
Yeah, so it's Tetris, but with octominoes.
Yeah.
Does it have every octomino or just like a selection?
It has a selection because you only want to go with the connected ones.
The popular ones, the ones that everybody talks about.
As the kids would say, this is pretty cursed.
Holy shit. This is actually really interesting, though. The idea of like when you first play it, having to actively understand the pixel sizes and like try to do it. That's like a funny horror, like some Tetris master's nightmare. This going
it's
down.
Totally playable and well executed for the concept that it is, but it's also very, very hard.
Yeah.
No,
I
John,
spent quite a bit of time. Because it's I think it's also wider than a normal Tetris.
There's a lot of it is. There's more pixel width here. This is very tricky. I like this a lot, actually. It's also really tall. You have like a lot of time to watch this flounder. Like you'll have a very complex board by the end of it. I would imagine.
You got a lot of time to watch this piece coming down. You're like, what am I going to do with this?
Oh, that feels so good though. The wide
I can say as I'm playing it, none of this feels good.
I mean, visually to see that piece slot in, it felt really good.
Maybe for the spectator.
It's a lot more stressful when you're actually playing the game.
Yeah.
It's definitely like something out of a nightmare.
Come on, Joe, you gotta get at least one line clear. You can't.
One detail that I particularly appreciate is the fact that all of the letters in the logo have 8 pixels.
Oh, that's great.
So it's kind of a meta thing.
Yeah, the main thing that I noticed was the lack of a line piece, and like I'm not. Oh, that's exactly the piece you needed. I'm not exactly good at Tetris or anything, but I tend to expect line piece at some point, and it's very hard. Like I was at it for quite a while trying to get just a single line, and I did get one single line. I did get myself well, not an Octress, I suppose. You'd have to get 4 at once. That would be quite an exceptional achievement, I think. But
I'm not even really sure if it is mechanically possible to get an Octress. Like
I mean, you get more than an Octress, right? Is there any pieces that are longer that have more than 4 pixels in a?
All of the octominoes in this game are on a 4x4 grid.
Okay.
The names that the code uses for them are the N, the hammer, the S and Z and T, the fat N, the half hat 1 and 2, the stealth bomber, the fat T, the closed curly brace, the capital I, the underscore, the duck, the Y, and the P.
I mean, that's establishing new lore for octominoes, which I really appreciate.
These names are amazing.
They're really good.
The stealth bomber is the perfect description of that one.
I wonder if there is some additional mechanics to this where, like, when you have something more complex than Tetronymos, Tetris pieces, like having some way where you can almost destroy, like, details, like some other additional mechanic is probably what you want
Yeah.
to do to actually help make it possible to pull off anything.
It would
And-
definitely increase a lot of complexity because
That's
you know
true.
part of the way that this is implemented is it's using the frame buffer itself for keeping track of everything
Oh,
that's played, and so it's invisible at a normal game speed. This is clocked at about 100 cycles per frame, which is a little fast. But if you slow it down, it's actually still perfectly playable. The main difference that you'll notice is that you're able to see the way that the
you got 2 wishbones.
oh man, the way that it tests for complete lines. Basically, it really quickly draws a series of little horizontal lines from the top of the board as it's testing all the pixels to see.
Oh, that felt
nice.
so good. That was amazing.
Clearly an acquired skill.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, but there's just some of the little like dangly bits on pieces are just really mean and difficult to deal with. Like you pretty much have to sacrifice something in order to get them to fit together properly.
I mean, that's what good Tetris always is. It's a game of sacrifice. So I think Autonomo's Octris is really kind of pushing it even farther, where the pain should be the guiding light.
Several years ago, I made Pentris, which is exactly what it sounds like, and it was an absolute nightmare, and I regret making it. It turns out that Tetris is just like at this specific kind of saddle point in the design space where almost any small change you can make to Tetris results in a tremendously harder and often less good game.
So they always talk about like, well, I got it mechanically running, and it was a beautiful. Like I couldn't stop playing. I didn't bother with music. Tetris was amazing, and I always wonder about all the non-Tetrises that they had come up to before that point. If they had tried like the Quintris, Pentris, if they had gone in that space, if they had tried other shapes, like what was before the it feels so good. And I think anybody who has tried to do a Tetris like or played around with those has found out that it's hard. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, look
it
no
just
further
doesn't-
than Hatris for the question of like, what if the brilliant inventor of Tetris tried to follow that first act? The
Just
answer
start with the
is,
wish.
oh boy. I feel like this is a game that could, in fact, be pretty successful, like running this on your graphing calculator, trying to kill time in class.
Yeah.
The fact that it is so much harder makes it more engaging to at least some degree.
If only there was a line piece, but there's no piece that could possibly fit in that slot.
No heroes. This is a less humanist game than Tetris.
Hmm?
Oh yeah, that you're setting yourself up.
Hmm? You just gotta wait for that hat.
Oh,
Whichever
you got it. You got
That's
a
a
perfect.
really good piece. You could have just gone for it, but I respect
Oh my
it.
god!
Don't do it. Don't do it. No,
I
no,
think
no,
it-
no, no.
See?
Oh yeah, there's
Yeah.
line clear.
You cleared a
clear.
line.
That
That was
was
all that was needed.
Ended with a wishbone.
Octris by Sunil. We're
Very
gonna see the
nice.
game over screen real quick here.
I never
Real
even
real
occurred to me
quick
to
here.
lose.
We're gonna see this. You can at least go. You can make him taller.
No,
It's the principle of the thing.
I'm holding the down arrow key.
I love the wishbone. That's a very good piece. The wishbone and the hammer.
I guess that's it. No, oh, you can press R to reset. Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, that's good.
Well done.
Very nice.
What do you think? You want to do yours, IJ? WDL?
Sure. I'm not exactly sure how this should be pronounced. Maybe it's Woodle.
Waddle.
Word. Dread. Love.
Dread love. Whoa. Oh.
It actually has a randomized set of different explanations for what it's an acronym for on the title screen. So
Okay.
this is that game. You know, that word game. That one.
I don't know.
Yeah, dread love. Word
So
dread love.
you need to guess English words using the letters that are available, and then you will get back information mastermind style about whether or not any of those letters are successful. So in that case, neither of those two letters appear in the word that you're looking for, so they got removed from your keyboard.
Oh, I see.
Does it check against a dictionary to prevent fake words going in?
Yes. So there's a dictionary of about
Nice.
500 words. This is kind of like the main technical choice.
Try fed.
The main technical choice in implementing all of this was just that I was remarking how it would be impossible to port Wordle to chip 8 because you only have 3.5 kilobytes of RAM. And I did a little bit of searching around online, and I found that actually, you know, for 3-letter English words, you're looking at exhaustive lists that are only about 1,200 entries. So I spent some time going through that and culling out really weird stuff and acronyms and onomatopoeia.
Jeb is not a word.
And I managed to get it down to about 500, which I can fit in memory.
Poor Jeb. I feel like Jeb should be included. Please clap for this.
Oh, there's no.
I will say that I had to pad the table slightly in order to get it to 512 exactly, because that makes a bunch of other stuff convenient. So there are a few words that I particularly like that are slightly more likely to be the word that you're looking for, because they're just duplicates of them.
I was going to say, the F looks a lot like the stealth bomber, and that M looks rather familiar. So I'm already having flashbacks to Octris.
Yeah, there are definitely some. Just not your lucky day.
I like how it blinks at the letters that were used. That's a nice convenience there.
Yeah, it's just like the original Wordle. The thing about this game is that it's like maybe 10% game mechanics.
Eel. Try eel, John. The double E's might have gotten you.
And all of the rest of it is you know, usability.
Hen!
Didn't see that coming.
What are the odds?
I told you that a few words are a little bit more likely.
Oh, did you? How often would hen come up? Out of curiosity.
I don't know. It depends on how I coded it.
Yeah, how do you how are you doing? Why is let not a word? Are you doing like dictionary lookups? How did you store a dictionary?
What I did was I have a table of 512 words that are each packed into 2 bytes for 3 letters, because it's only 0 to 25 to represent each of the letters. And I did that not particularly because I was super tight on memory, because I would have had enough room if I had taken up 3 bytes per word. It also made it a lot faster to do the dictionary lookups. Well done.
Nice work.
Because it meant that when I was scanning the dictionary to find matches, I only had to compare 2 bytes instead of 3.
Pin. P-I-N.
So I sort of started by designing that data structure, and then I built the whole rest of the game around it and implementing all of the details. Well done.
Good guess.
None of the letters.
Good job, or should I say good pin.
That is extraordinary. I've never won this game. I should clarify.
When I was testing it, I found that I was frequently winning on either the 4th or 5th guess. Sometimes you get stumped.
I really like this, honestly. Like, this is for a 3-letter implementation. There's a lot of fun to it, because it really reduces down the kind of spaces there. And so just to confirm, it is showing you. Have we always been lucky with what letter is being placed? Like, what does a correct letter but in the wrong place look like?
So if you have a correct letter in the wrong place, then it will draw a dotted underline underneath it. In the original Wordle, it uses different colors for eliminating and confirming and right letter, wrong place. But But so I needed to choose representations for everything that would still read pretty well, and I could do inverted letters and they still read okay. Eliminating letters from the keyboard entirely solves the problem of marking off not matched. A little bit of psychology here, and it pays off.
That is great.
Always eat egg.
Egg and hen. What are the odds on that one, folks?
So
what came first? This is the moment.
I would just like to note that this game is for stock chip 8. I did everything in a Cosmac VIP compatible fashion in terms of both code and speed and storage. So this would totally work on VIP from 1977. Just imagine you could travel back in time and presumably sell this game to the New York Times for whatever the deflation adjusted equivalent of $1.3 million is.
I feel like this would have been a killer app. I think this works incredibly well with 3 letters, where it's like in this space, like this is a game that I could imagine on a calculator, and people play this a lot in class. Like this is
there you go, a lot.
This is the best. Go for it. A lot was one. So
looking starting or ending with O.
Yeah. The times I guessed it, every single time I had A in the middle, and one of my words was or. So OAR.
ORE.
Yeah, or.
Either or.
Okay, so it ends in O.
At the end. And this kills all the moos, the roos.
Trying to think of words that end in O.
That don't contain an A.
Yeah, there's a lot of letters mixed here.
Thank you for including poo in the dictionary.
Well, I did notice. So I think Wordle normally wouldn't give you ... in that circumstance.
Yeah, that's
it's so it gives you a dot, even though it is meant to be on the end.
You would assume 2 here, but we know for sure it can't be.
Yeah.
You could try Neo.
Neo's good.
Like your favorite hacker action hero.
My favorite or your favorite?
Oh, Neo does not count.
That doesn't exist.
The agents got to him.
Yeah. Well, happens to us all.
And there are no acronyms, by the way, so it's not like SEO or anything.
Oh, ego.
Ego's good.
Hey, there you go, Master.
That's gonna leave a mark on my ego.
Yeah, that counts as a win for you.
That is absolutely.
Oh, it does.
There's not many good 3-letter O enders. I wonder how many there even are.
So it's definitely not the most spectacular game, but I was pretty pleased with it in terms of just overall playability, given the rest of the constraints.
I think it's honestly, for a DMake, this once again shows the coreness of what a DMake is successful at, and this is getting, in some ways, I would say this is more interesting to me than the 5-letter version. And I think the implementation here is really solid.
This will get old pretty quickly, I feel like.
You'll probably go through the word base pretty quick, so that's probably the biggest limiter. But I think this is a game that you play it for a few minutes every so often. You probably could keep that on a calculator, and it would be like the killer app in that space.
I think in general, like there's a reason that the real Wordle only had you play it once a day.
Yeah.
But it's not actually possible for me to achieve anything like that because I don't have access to a real-time clock. In base chip 8, I don't actually have any way of storing persistent information. I guess it would have been possible to make it so the program would just like run there for 24 hours. But I didn't think that anybody would be.
The jet hog.
You always miss the
always
hog.
Go for hog.
The 30 to 50 hogs.
A slippery hog.
Yeah, I think you did a really good job, IJ. I really like having the letter choice selection, removing letters. That's like because you have to display the letter set within this format. That's a really nice sort of feature.
And at first I had the problem of like, well, damn, how do I make the cursor skip over things? And then I got the idea to just have like a little dot cursor when you're over an invalid one, which is from a usability perspective almost as good. You don't even really notice it. But from an implementation perspective, it's so much simpler.
Mhm.
I was so worried about, like ending up with just weird cases of letters getting marked off the keyboard and then having difficulty navigating it and stuff. It's a huge nightmare.
So
The keyboard is by far the most complicated part of the entire game.
Yeah.
Will it still let you put in the letter that's dotted out?
No.
Or is it gone? Okay, it's gone.
It's gone. It's inactivated.
That's actually a change, because that could make it more difficult to try to figure out if you absolutely cannot think of the right one. There's going to be words that you would use to kind of help suss it out. That will be limiting for somebody like trying to do it. So it's slightly, I don't think that's necessarily bad. It makes it, I think, a little bit more difficult.
Not BitPet indeed.
Yeah,
have you satisfied your desires, John?
Yeah, I think I am the world champion at this game, and there's no need to kind of further trounce on anybody else or crush dreams. So I think we're gonna move on. That was great, IJ. Thanks for making that.
Very good. You can't win anything, right? You can't. There's nothing to win, and also
it doesn't eject your CD drive tray and have a piece of pepperoni free or anything like that.
Is that a thing?
Well,
so our next game is Octagon Trail.
Yeah, so this is a little bit sad. So it says that this is a placeholder, but I think that Tarsi just ran out of time on this one. I haven't seen any updates on this in a few days. I opened up the source code because I was just like absolutely tingling at the notion of an Oregon Trail demake, as I'm sure that all the rest of you are as well. And there's a fair amount of work in it, but not really anything that you can even hack open and play yet. It's just not finished. So I guess the main thing that I would say about this is please revisit this next year. I would love to see a finished Oregon Trail demake. Please, it would make my next year.
Yeah, I think that'd be wonderful. And I just want to say, well, you can see the font. I think that's very good font work as far as getting a very accurate Octagon Trail concept going down. I like.
It's a nice title screen.
There could probably be an ox to the left. You might want to reposition Trail. There could be something a little bit more, but it's very solid.
Right,
Blobo!
let's try
I love
Blobo.
Blobo.
Yeah.
Is it Blobo or Blobo?
I want Blobo, but
I think Blobo makes more sense.
But Blow. I mean, look, it's inflated clearly. If he popped, it would be Blobo, but he didn't pop.
Yeah, the game starts off really nice, and then it starts just whipping them at you. It's kind of random spikes in difficulty and random spikes on the floor. So there's a thematic connection there, probably.
So wait, are rings bad? Do you not want the rings?
You're trying to collect those. It makes the number go up.
I think.
I thought that was like the.
Yeah, I think it sets itself up to be kind of a trick. Going for the rings, the ones that are moving generally mean you're gonna die.
Well, yeah, you gotta judge.
They come in different speeds, and sometimes it really is trying to like tempt you to take a jump that you're not going to be able to land because you don't have any air control really.
The really neat thing, though, is that once again, like we see with the demakes and not demake, but like the sort of gameplays in these Octo spaces, it's the pixel perfect aspect is actually really interesting. I can pretty quickly judge, you're going to hit it by 1 pixel, you're going to hit it by 2 or 3 pixels, like that level of fidelity of seeing the pixel space makes hitboxes really that are super accurate, obviously, very interesting to me. So you can be really precise and know for a fact, yeah, you're going to clear it or you're not, if you're really looking at the pixel spacing.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Chip 8 makes really easy to do is pixel perfect collision. Because whenever you draw a sprite and it overlaps with something that's already in the screen, you just have to check the flag register and you can immediately know whether or not you've overlapped with something. It gets a little bit more complicated when you have a more complicated visuals on screen, and you might have to disambiguate what you actually hit. But for simple games like this, it lets you get that pixel perfect collision pretty easily.
Is there an end to this game?
Not that I'm aware of.
We gotta get 99 John to find out.
I can tell you what happens. I was quite interested in some of the coincidences, I suppose, in this game because I was affected by them myself many years ago on something completely unrelated. And that is so your jump in this game is about 30 or so frames of game. And you'll note that the spikes actually aren't random. They perfectly loop every time. So there's always two on screen, equidistant from each other. And that means that they're moving one pixel at a time, so it takes them 64 frames to cross the screen. So if your jump takes about 30 frames and there's 64 frames, I suppose, between each time you have to jump, you can jump, wait for a frame, jump again, wait for a frame, jump, wait for a frame, over and over and over. And if your jumps are anything but just at the right time, you'll never be able to jump over the spike in a way. Like you always have to jump at a very specific time. And then you add on to that the coins. The coins move at a very
They're trying to
specific
fool
speed.
you, trying to
Yes.
deceive you.
Well, you can end up in this situation or very close to it, especially with the faster coins, where it actually becomes completely impossible to pick up a coin because it is always in exactly the wrong place and it never gets out of that situation. Like it actually just scrolls around the screen. It doesn't destroy itself. It just scrolls around the screen over and over on a perfect multiple of 2. Versus everything else on a multiple of 2. So you just get stuck. You just get soft locked with your score. You can never get any more points.
It's just like life.
Very
This is
sad.
an incredibly good lesson about the
Hmm.
the issues of capitalism and what we
And the risk of soft locking.
The pursuit of money is ultimately leading to our downfall.
The moral systems of blobs and blobos. Not blobos. Blobos.
Another thing I really like about it is if you do jump immediately right at the beginning of the game, you always die.
Don't go
Like if you're like E, click. Oh, you're like, oh, dead.
It's a little bit like, level 1, world 1 in Mario, where it forces you to learn something about the mechanics immediately. Don't hit the spike. Okay, don't jump. You won't have time to get over the spike.
This was made by a spiteful creator, just like real life. So
I think unfortunately much of it may have been unintended art, as it were, but the truth bears out.
Yeah, I think it's quite solid and functional, and it maybe does teach some lessons. I was going to say that, like, if there was more time to go into this is the sort of game that I think having one addition, like the idea that you have a double jump, that you can do like one additional jump in the air, but there's also birds that hurt you coming at the top for a third line of interaction. That would be like the next step of seeing a little bit more to this, where like I think with a double jump, just as this is right now, you'd pretty much always be able to get the coins and be able to avoid it. The third thing being able to hit you at the top and then make it into something to avoid. I think that level of complexity might be pretty nice. But this
A
is
different angle that you could take on it would be to make it so that double jumping is like a resource, and you need to get a thing other than coins, or maybe the coins give them to you, so that there's like a mechanical benefit to collecting the coins rather than just the score.
Yeah,
it becomes a resource management thing.
Yeah, definitely. If you lose, if it costs a coin each time.
Like if you could use the double jump to get yourself out of a sticky situation, then you're kind of like always on a knife's edge of, do I use this resource to save my life, or do I save the resource in order to be able to, keep going and making attempts at getting more resources?
Without something on the third up above, though, I think the double jump, you could always save it till when you're coming down on top of a spike, and you'd pretty much always be able to utilize, the moment you get one or more, you'd always be jumping to get a coin. When you come down for a spike, you double jump. I think that like there has to be a little bit more to make that, but I think that's a really solid way of going.
Or if you had to commit to a double jump when you were still on the ground.
A super jump
height,
then.
Yeah.
A super jump could be very interesting.
Anyway, I think that's about all there is to see on this game. How about we move on?
I think Blobbo could be the next big character. He's pretty much. It's like that song How to Draw Kirby, and you draw a circle. It's just that with less steps, which is really appealing.
All right, we're gonna look at one of the two bad apples we got this year.
Yeah, so we got 2 demakes of the world's most recreated music video. both for Exochip, so that they can provide us with sound.
So did they spoil the bunch? Did we get, if we'd let it gone longer, would everything be bad apples?
So clearly the challenge here is when you're using Exochip, you have a few extensions above and beyond what is normally available in Chip 8. You go from having 3.5 kilobytes of RAM to having 63.5 kilobytes of RAM. So you can fit significantly more content and data. And additionally, you have a few commands for manipulating the graphics on the screen and playing audio. But even with 63.5 kilobytes for sound and data, it's a pretty challenging task to cram this entire music video into the amount of RAM that's available. And we have two different entries that both use some similar but mostly remarkably different techniques in order to try to crunch this down and also render it reasonably fast. With a normal video codec, you have the idea of occasionally a frame that's just the entire thing explicitly, and then you have intermediate frames that tween between that and the next keyframe. In both of these encoders, they take kind of an approach of having a stream of bits that correspond to a set of different drawing commands that can be used at different times in order to uncompress the data. In this one, you may notice that when things move quickly, especially, it gets kind of blocky. The reason for that is that all of the drawing commands that are available are aligned on 8x8 squares. So it can draw like an 8x8 square at a time or a 16x16 square at a time to update the display. But it also makes use of the scrolling commands that Exochip provides, where you can scroll the screen. So since the music video contains a lot of sequences where it just slides off the edge for one scene transition or another, you end up being able to compress those very smoothly and efficiently. But when things are more still, you got to spend your time updating in little bits the finer details of what's going on in the scene.
I love that cartoon. Little Bits. I've never actually seen this original music video, so this is going to be the original to me.
You've never seen Bad Apple?
I don't think so. No, this is not familiar at all to me.
Huh.
Is it?
Well, has this looped yet?
No, I don't think so.
That was really
Getting towards
impressive.
the end, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing.
I think that the full thing
long.
is 220 seconds for the entire video.
So 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So quite a bit of...
I think that the yin-yang's the end there.
That was really cool.
That's really impressive. Especially since I haven't seen the original, so I assume this is a unique creation of your own, and that they ripped you off. They remade it way too high quality. So very good work.
Tohu just traveled back in time, inspired by this Exochip creation, and created an entire video game series with elaborate lore, all in order to just rip this idea off, which I think is shameful, but understandable.
Very impressive.
There's another Bad Apple here, but in between, the people watching this video won't see this, but in between, we're going to show Everdread the real Bad Apple, and we'll come back after a cut. So see you then.
I love this stuff now.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is a collaboration between Kuzero and Tremendous. So Kuzero is the guy who did a bunch of work with audio last time, and so this is based on the same music tracker technology that we've seen in a few previous entries.
Oh, nice.
But also it has to be blended with doing the video decompression. So this has a more elaborate soundtrack, but it's an even harder problem to cram in the video.
So there's definitely competition for available resources.
and runtime resources, just in terms of speed. Like it's worth noting that the other version of Bad Apple is using Octo's ludicrous speed to run at, and this version, which is about 20,000 cycles per frame, this version is running at 40,000. So it's twice ludicrous speed, double ludicrous speed, in order to achieve both the decompression of the video and painting and playing all the music, which is fairly CPU intensive.
And this looks like it's sticking to a smaller resolution with the pixel sizes here.
Yeah, this is all running in low res and at about 15 FPS.
I also noticed it seemed to update certain parts of the screen differently. It reminded me a lot of like Sonic R on the Genesis or the Mega Drive. That has an introduction FMV that's all crazy like that.
One of the compression methods that this video codec uses is the ability to interlace lines. So whenever there's really rapid motion, part of the way that it keeps on track with that is it can go into an interlaced mode and just draw alternating rows of the display. Whereas the other codec was using 8x8 blocks to do painting. I believe that this one exclusively paints pixels in horizontal strips, which is a little bit more CPU intensive, but it also means that it's more flexible in where it applies diffs in a frame. It does not, as far as I could tell, take advantage of scrolls, though, which was a really clever idea that the other engine used. So I think that it is certainly the case that if these three guys had known that they were both doing the same thing at the same time and collaborated on it, we might have seen an even better version. Although, not to in any way denigrate these two fantastic adaptations.
I like how the scan lines, they help give some sense of like a motion blur effect depending on how it's used, which is kind of an interesting way to think about how motion blur would be represented in a one-bit sort of environment. The original video, it just kind of does blurs, it doesn't actually stay true to it. So there's a lot of things where the original video kind of steps down. This is being, both of these examinations and implementations is doing like a more accurate concept than the original did, which cheated in a lot of ways visually.
It's kind of an interesting psychological angle because we've been sort of trained from our experience using televisions and consoles and so on to associate the interlacing effect with things moving rapidly. We just see it as, it's like it's a form of motion blur.
All right.
Tremendous also provided an alternate ROM for this version that uses a higher quality and higher frame rate that looks great, but the problem is that he only has room for a couple of seconds of the video. So this is 16 seconds long, but it looks fantastic.
That's all you need.
Wow.
That's so crisp.
In comparison. So I think we can all agree that that's enough of the video, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the canonical length of Bad Apple now.
Yeah, we're gonna play H8 or Hate 2 Carry Flag.
Hate 2. Did we have a Hate 1 at one point?
We did, yes. So about 5 years ago now, in Octo Jam 4, I collaborated with somebody, and we were going to make a game together, and I was so busy that instead that they did all of the work. And so I've made a sequel to a game made by Takiso, who used to jam with us, but I don't think we've seen him for a while now. So
what's going on here?
Decline.
You can use the keyboard buttons as well. I just made sure that the keypad was available.
This game has some really fantastic noodle limbs, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, these limbs are great. That is really cool to see. This is something that I think this is the first time I've seen something like this from the games in Octo Jam. This is very interesting to me. This sort of animation style of having connective sprite elements almost.
Well, it comes at great cost.
I imagine.
So yeah, so those are the keyboard buttons for John. If you want the hex keys for it, I can tell you what those would be. They would be the A and the B buttons that you can see there. But honestly, it plays better with the keyboard.
So is
And
it
there's a
drawn
few
like-
rules. So go ahead, Fred.
Oh, is it drawing a straight line between the two elements? Is it like doing a vector line sort of thing?
Effectively, it is, yes. So it uses. I made a game not last year, but the year before that called Angle of Death, where I was experimenting with line drawing in Octo. And it's basically built off of that experience, that system, except it has the distinction of using 3 pixel thick lines rather than 1 pixel thick lines.
Huh.
So is there a loose state here?
So there is no way to lose. There is only more mountain to climb. And there is a key piece of information that you might have been tricked by, which is that you can put both of your hands or both of your feet onto the same node. But you
Just
cannot,
like in real bouldering.
yeah, but you can't mix your feet and your hands together, unfortunately.
If you deliberately like twister your limbs in this game, it does not disallow you from doing it,
Yeah.
but it punishes you by having the control scheme get very, very confusing, which I think
Yeah.
is ultimately a pretty satisfying design decision.
Yeah. Because in my mind, when I talked with Takeso about this game all these years ago, like I had, what it could do all of these wonderful things, and what would the game even be like? And it was all spawned from the idea that I was quite amused by. We always like to put the word 8 into our Octo game's name, and the word height includes the letters for the number 8 inside of it, but you pronounce it very differently. So
Oh.
the joke is you put an umlaut on top of it, a German umlaut, and that turns it into height.
Okay. That's great.
It's slightly too far is the thing, I think. The one of the problems with the line drawing algorithm is that the hands that are drawn on the end aren't actually where the line ends. Like it artificially extends it a little bit. And so the situation that you've got yourself in here, John, you probably want to see if you can stack your hands back up and get your lower leg up onto there, or stack your legs and get both your hands onto the same node, and that tends to make things easier. Because what you need to do is balance which two limbs are stretched effectively. I've learned that the effective strategy tends to be to stack up. You don't have to, but it tends to be the most effective because you're balancing effectively a maximum stretch across all of your limbs. Basically, it knows how long each individual line is. It uses a table to work out the hypotenuse length of your limb, and then it just adds them all up. And if it's over a certain limit, then you can't stretch anymore.
You lose.
The detail
Oh,
that I really like about
there's more
this
to
is
the
the way
side.
that your character just faces to look at each limb
Yeah.
as you switch in the controls. It's like how apparently octopuses are like that. When they need to manipulate something in detail, they have to look at their own arms because they have too many degrees of freedom in order to keep track of.
That's
probably
neat.
want to move your legs over.
Imagine this game with 8 arms.
Terrifying.
Horrific.
Well, I mean, you could just keep drawing more and more lines. But if you get your legs over, John, you'll probably be able to make that gap. Because again, your legs are where all the stretch is.
Just like in real life.
Yeah. Although for our climber here, he doesn't mind which limb gets stretched ultimately.
Very flexible.
Yes, remarkably flexible. So it's actually completely inspired by a decision that Takeso made in the original game, which was to just have these ridiculously long arms come up from the bottom of the screen. And it just is what made the game for me in the end. And I was like, I've got to keep that somehow. I was like, well, I know. I shall have our little climber gentleman here.
Is it
these
just
limbs.
me that gets like kind of a little bit of a Newgrounds Avatar vibe from the appearance of the player character?
I get that. Yeah, I do.
Oh yeah, I could buy that.
Like their little helmet and goggles dudes.
Seems like a
So
little badass.
originally, Takeso made like a little cool animation for the end of the level of like a shining pair of goggles, and
Nice.
again that really stuck with me because we weren't able to put it in the original height because we were really pushing up against the limitations because that was for Super Chip, and this is targeted at XO Chip, as you can tell from the 4 colors technically, but it's really comes across as a 3-color game.
And you actually
And
had a fair amount of storage left over. This wasn't really pushing it in terms of RAM.
absolutely, yeah, not at all. There, I think I did. Honestly, I just made a game. I didn't pay any attention to my memory usage. I didn't really pay too much attention to my cycle usage. This is also running on ludicrous speed.
Yeah, it ends up clocking in at about 25 kilobytes. So, not even half of what's available. And while it is clocked at 20K, I did a little bit of experimentation and it's totally playable at 1,000. It's just a little bit blinky.
Yeah. So one of the things with the line drawing algorithm that I use is that it draws each set of 3 pixels. So if you have a line that's 20 pixels long in one direction and say 10 in the other, it has 20 different draw operations for the longest side of the line. And we
Boy.
have 4 limbs here. And I didn't try really to do anything smart or creative with the undrawing. It V blanks. It blanks the entire screen every time you change whatever's being rendered, which is a super lazy way to go about doing it.
Yeah, normally when you're making Chip 8 games, if you want to make them work at slower speeds, you want to take advantage of the fact that sprite drawing is always toggling pixels. So if you minimize the amount of time that things are erased on the screen, and you minimize the amount of stuff that you have to redraw on any given frame, you can have little action games and things, even when you're running at a very, very slow frame rate. But the problem with that, of course, is that you have to sort of think ahead and anticipate the fact that you're going to have to erase things before you redraw them. And it all gets just tremendously simpler if you make it more like a conventional modern game. Just clear the screen, draw everything.
Yeah.
So is there a
I,
top? Is there an end to this?
There is, if you push the 4 button on your keyboard or the C key that you can see, if you hold it, you can see how far you've climbed up.
nice.
There's
Very
a little
cool.
map.
That's very good.
I
Are
I
you
knew that
even-
people were getting a little frustrated with, like, they didn't know how far they'd gotten or how high up they were, and if it was like, oh well, I've had enough of this. But seeing the map makes you think, oh, I'll go a little further. I'll try and get a little bit higher up and see the end. So, what were you going to say, IJ?
I think I just lost that thought.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, like in real life, bouldering kind of is like that. You
Yeah.
you look at the wall and you decide, all right, I'm gonna get. I don't think I can do this whole problem, but I can at least get up to there. And then you get up there and you're like, oh, if I just a couple of inches,
bit
I can at least
further.
get up to that
Yeah.
next handhold.
Yeah. You can also push the 2 key on your keyboard just to reset the limb you were working on.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice quality.
Again,
I hadn't noticed.
little quality of life things. Because I actually soft locked myself once. Because you can scroll your limbs off of the side of the screen,
Uh-huh.
and if you do that, they're still locked in position. Because some elements of the limbs use a mathematical test to see if they're in the right place, but they use a graphical test to see if they can latch in place. So onto the little gray pins.
So you don't get any collision comparison results when they're off screen.
Well, yeah, because you can scroll the marker off the screen more easily than you can scroll your leg off the side of the screen. And you can start moving your leg, not be able to put it somewhere, and now the marker that you had been previously attached to has gone off the side of the screen, and you can't do anything about it. Like, you're just stuck. Oh, what are you going to do, John?
A tricky space. I think many rock climbers have been in this exact position. It's a tough one.
It takes you a while to learn how to telescope your limbs into your torso, but
yeah, eventually you get it.
I mean, this could have been themed as a gadget game, you know? Go gadget rock climbing on.
Yeah. You should be able to get your hand up on top now and then move your feet over, yeah.
That was the idea.
Because originally I made the map for this just in like Paint or whatever. Because I was like, I don't know, what seems like I could probably do it. I don't know. And so I had to basically draw the map and then see if I could climb up it, because I didn't know what the limitations were going to be. I didn't know what the rules ultimately end up having to be.
Can your legs get over there if you extend that? Like, just move the individual leg over up to that top right one?
Oh, yeah, just barely.
I think you have to reposition your torso to be closer from...
This is actually one of those situations where that original node went off the screen. If you move your body to the right, what you'll end up doing is putting a lot of the stretch into that left leg, which is the one you want to move the most. So that's to your benefit. So you should be able to get the leg over there, maybe?
Not quite.
So you want that
in
limb to
this
be as
instance, we're
long
sort
as
of
possible.
a stretched leg strong, if you will.
There we go.
So
There we go.
Now you're in a pickle, though. Again, I think you're probably going to have to move your torso over to make your legs as short as possible and your arms as long as possible, because you want to move your arms.
Can you go up? Is there enough to hit the left one? There you go.
Oh, yeah.
But now you're... Yeah.
I had initially contemplated the idea of being able to, like, slingshot yourself up to your arm, perhaps.
Do dinos.
Yeah. But I ended up just sticking with sort of like the simple mechanics that we're sort of seeing here.
Well, we'll have to
Nearly there.
wait for height
Yes.
3 for the spring physics simulation. Oh man,
So close.
it's so tantalizing.
Yeah, that's the finish. You've nearly got it. You might want to bring
I
that
really
far leg
appreciate the
in.
fact that you're actually bothering to draw like the only background feature that we have seen in the entire game.
Yes.
So you know
Yeah.
how close you are.
So close you can almost smell it. But there's a bit more to a bit more to your left. That helps. Oh, I'd get your feet over.
Yeah.
If you can remember which buttons. Select the feet. It's not the easiest thing in the world. There you go. And then you just have to get a limb up onto there. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to figure out what to do. And I learned the other day, it's actually possible to grab onto the ending marker without actually winning. As I've got a number that's not quite right. Do it.
Hooray.
Nice.
Owned. Excellent game.
It was a volcano. Oh, no.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, let's try and do Exo Nyan Cat.
So this is another entry by Kuzero. So this is kind of another tech demo of his chip tracker. I thought it was a nice addition to have it actually time how long you have this thing sitting and looping.
I've never seen the original for this one either, so this is also the original to me.
I really like how even with just the handful of colors. Like you can really believe the rainbow and the animation as well. Like if it was just the music, that'd be one thing. But having the animation there as well, I think is really quite good.
I think it's a really pleasant anime. Like, I think they did an extremely good job with particle effects and the rainbow.
Yeah, the Starfield looks great.
Yeah.
All right, that was Exo Cat. What do you think? Destroy the Line by Tamar?
Let's give it a
Yeah.
shot. See if we can destroy that line.
Oh boy.
I'm in favor of the line. I hope the line can survive.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we'll read this.
So
That's a good idea.
So basically what you're doing is it's like you're drawing a line from the like bottom corner where the 0 and the B meet one another on the keyboard in the direction of the center of the key that you hit. So you're controlling the angle of this line that you're sending out each time. And it's kind of like Breakout in the sense that you're trying to, hit the far side. At first, it's really, really easy because you're always punching a hole and it's sort of growing that single hole on each phase. But it's sort of a slow burn of difficulty. As it goes on, the hole gets bigger and the target that you're trying to hit gets smaller and smaller. So actually getting the last couple of pixels of this thing requires you to have a good understanding of how to use the different angles. And Tom also pointed out that you can also choose to play the same game as just we'll try to avoid hitting the line because it's symmetrical.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought the game was at first. I was like, oh, that's cool.
It's essentially, you really can choose either way. And on just a technical note, I'd like to point out that this is the smallest game that we had submitted. There was a smaller program that we had submitted, but this is the smallest like playable interactive thing, and it uses S-chip for doing its scrolling, but it runs at a very low cycle rate. So this would probably work just fine on a calculator. Of course, you have to hold it sideways or just think about it in terms.
True. You'd have to change all of the angle buttons to correlate with the rotated screen.
Or else it would become tremendously harder. So just 225 bytes.
Have you ever successfully destroyed the line, IJ?
No. I played it for about 10 minutes, and I was not able to completely destroy the line.
I have successfully destroyed said line.
Is there an ending?
Dang.
No.
So, interestingly, there kind of is an ending, and also there isn't an ending. The algorithm it uses to redraw the line, effectively along the top, it knows how long the line is supposed to be. It picks a random spot and draws it. And because the line length becomes 0, it always draws the first pixel, sees that it isn't 0 because it's drawn 1, and then it loops all the way around and just draws around the screen, I think 4 times, right? Because it's 64 pixels.
Mm-hmm.
And you get, it's like a little ending celebration. It's like, oh, that's cute. I wonder if that was on purpose or an accident. And I'm not sure. I think Tom R maybe said, but I'm not sure anymore.
Only Tom knows.
I would like to see a sequel game where you have to restore the line by hitting the side of it every single time and putting it back on.
I think if there's like power-ups that could be like placed in the center of the screen, so you try to thread the needle, you try to make a line that intersects. It would be interesting.
Things to bounce off.
Bounce off, or like thicken your line, so you take out more than one pixel at a time. So it's like you want to go for the thickeners. There's some sort of, probably not too crazy, a little bit of additional power-up concepts.
Prisms.
I'm definitely looking forward to Destroy the Line to Restroy the Line.
Yeah, this is where it starts to get a little bit hairy, where you have to sort of start figuring out which button gives you which kind of a line. Like the center pairs basically give you a less steep line in general. And the more up they are, the less steep again they are, so you can get an almost vertical line by using the top set. Shallow line. And it's quite hard. I didn't actually look into the way he is drawing his lines. When I've been doing my line drawing stuff, I've tended to use subpixel stuff to do the mathematics for it.
So he's using essentially a table of rise over run offsets.
Yeah.
Although it's implemented as kind of a large switch. But effectively, it's a lookup table.
Right.
Finding the buttons to be not reliable in what they do.
Well, that's the nuance, the challenge, and skill. I think that you're probably going to make yourself go completely insane if you try to totally win this one on stream, John. So I'm giving you permission. Like, you're not giving up. You're just saying, I am confident that given enough time, I would be the champion of this, so I don't need to demonstrate it to people.
I appreciate you saying that, IJ.
Oh gosh. It's got to be 2, right?
Get the ruler out. Get the
Two
ruler out.
is going to make me go this way.
Yeah, it is that way.
You want to go that way just a little bit.
Yeah!
Oh, fucking nailed it.
All right, cool. That was Destroy the Line. Real quick one. Breezed right through it.
Let's take a look at Verisimilitude's entries. Yeah, so Verisimilitudes has submitted some additional programs that are not on itch, but they're more entries in the competition because they are Chip 8 programs and they were written in the appropriate time. So Roman numerals is it's just counting in Roman numerals. So it's kind of a demonstration of a clever table-driven algorithm for computing the Roman numeral that you should print out for a given sequential number. And there's a big write-up on how this works if you go to verisimilitudes.net that explains in quite a bit of detail how this went through a few different implementations in different languages and sort of refining this idea in order to pack it down into a very compact Chip 8 program. And then the other one is called Even More Enhanced Enchantment. And this is sort of a bullet hell. The controls are a little bit odd. It's basically Q2ES as moving around, but 2 moves you down and S moves you up. So it's sort of an inverted y-axis.
I keep thinking it's moving down on my screen, but it's the game scrolling.
Yeah, so the game slowly scrolls and it draws random lines at you. It's actually pretty fun.
Can you escape in the gaps that it creates?
If there are actual gaps, then yes. And gaps are formed whenever lines overlap one another, toggling pixels off. I think that there are some situations where you'll just get kind of stuck and you're doomed, but most of the time you can stay on top of it and stay ahead of the pattern.
I think is this a sequel to a game that played like this before?
It says Even More Advanced Enchantment, so I'd assume so.
This is a more elaborate version of a program that we looked at last year.
Right. Yes, because I remember this. Kind of, but it wasn't as more advanced. And now it's far more advanced.
I was going to say, you don't want to be at the top of the screen. You want to give yourself space to react.
I want to be at the top of the screen.
That is a hubris move. Is there some? Are they targeting with each new when they appear first? New line drawn to some degree because it
What?
feels like, yeah, there's some targeting going on. Are these like? Is each line unique in its behavior, kind of like the Pac-Man ghost? Are these like specialty worm lines that are like one's the chaser, one's the the noble giant?
I'm not sure how much of it is random and how much of it is behaviors ascribed to each line. This one didn't come with source code. It's just machine code, and it's a little bit too big for me to pick apart from scratch. So I can't really say much about its internals aside from the fact that it is 456 bytes.
Pretty good.
Oh, you are. Oh, it went for you. Yeah, that one seems to have when it notices you on the horizontal to at least once try to go after you. Get up to the left. There's a little gap that you can.
Is there?
Up to the left, right? There's a little gap that you can.
Yeah, I mean there was also one. Yeah, never mind.
That'll get you into the free space really easily.
Oop.
No, not down.
It's the reversed up and down that kind of got me there.
No.
I don't know why they're reversed.
I think two of the lines stacked on top of one another right there.
Fascinating.
So they were just, moving together and erasing each other.
It's like it has some chance when it's on a horizontal or vertical as the player to then change to theirs.
I think your idea that there's a little Pac-Man ghost logic going on is a that would be cool if this what was going on.
Well, it seems like definitely with the hard shifts, there must be something going on. So it'd be cool if you could know which line was which.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
If you open this in Octo, you could crank up the clock, right? I don't remember whether or not this has frame limiter code in it.
Well, that was neat. Who's the author of those again?
That's Verisimilitudes.
Very neat. All right. Collision Course by Ninja Weedle.
This is basically like a better version of Donkey.Bass, if you get the reference.
What a gruesome crash.
There's no way to go back, it seems like.
Can you just reverse a car?
Yeah.
In place on a road?
Yeah, it's called a reverse.
While driving into oncoming traffic?
I mean, you're in reverse, so you'd be driving away from oncoming traffic at that point.
You're not reversing. This is always it's following the car, but you're always moving right. So
it's basically like, have you ever seen the movie Speed? You can't slow down. You can't turn around. You just got to go.
Yeah, each time I think if you get off the right side of the screen, you get a point. But, much like hanging out at the top of the screen in Enchantment, it's a very high-risk strategy to be on the right side of the screen.
Well, just like real driving, you gotta make your time.
So a strategy that I was coming up with is if you wait about halfway across the side of the screen, you can figure out where the new car is, and that gives you better chance to be like, oh. But it's still very hard to dodge and not do that for one.
And this is actually only slightly larger than Destroy the Line. This is 247 bytes. So in terms of just like gameplay to scale, I think this is a fantastic entry.
Oops.
And
the orientation's a little weird.
A little bit. But the source code to this is also really readable. So if somebody is interested in getting into this and they want an example to work from that's pretty short and easy to understand, this would be a good one to open up the source code on.
I like how gruesome the crash is with like the person out and it's saying "ow." Ow.
Oh, it's saying "ow." I get it now.
It takes a couple of collisions to be able to make it out because it'll always get, obscured by something.
Yeah.
Gotta perfectly be on the road. Splat it. Oh, very late ow.
It's remarkably hard to make 5 by 6 pixels into something that's actually emotive and gets your point across. I find making low res games much harder than much higher, much harder than making high-risk games nowadays.
You have to kind of distill everything to its absolute visual essence. And it's still really difficult to like make anything read as anything in particular. It's more about just very vaguely suggesting the kind of thing that you're trying to make a picture of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I sort of imagine this is like a pitch black room with aliens that have one eye and big bulbous heads, and the heads are like knocking against each other. So
it's canon. That's what the game is about.
All right, that was cool. Let's look at this BIM logo animation by System Logoff.
So this is another example of an extremely promising, intriguing entry that is tragically unfinished. So BIM, as we all know, is a cute handheld computer which is your friend. And Sissel thought that it would be a neat idea to make BIM real as an exochip program. And he described some ideas around sort of making it act like a digital organizer that you'd have to explore in order to solve puzzles in sort of an adventure game. But he kind of ran out of time and had to deal with some personal stuff that took up a lot of his time and energy this month.
If only BIM was real, it would have helped him organize his time to make BIM real.
Yeah, if he'd actually had BIM to help him out, probably would have been easier. But I'm hopeful that maybe next year this will be another one that gets revisited and we'll get the entire BIM experience as opposed to just a tantalizing taste.
Yeah, I love the UI elements.
All right, we got Falling Ghost by Vegan J.
Are ghosts vegan?
The author, his name includes vegan.
I'm just saying that like ghosts don't have any meat, right?
Well, ghosts don't eat anything. This is a remarkably fun game.
This is really good.
It's great because it basically is snapping you back and forth between kind of like a minimalist version of Frogger and you know, a catch the ball kind of game. And just the fact that it's bringing you back and forth between these little game mechanics ends up making it really more than the sum of its parts.
Just go left at the start, John.
I don't think you can wrap when you don't have the power.
Oh, okay. Oh, then you can.
But my favorite thing about this is it's just how morose Pac-Man looks. It's like,
well, the only thing that Pac-Man has to eat are ghosts.
Oh yeah,
one pellet.
I mean, I do think it's a vegan lifestyle, so that's good.
Not a cherry in sight though. Not a banana.
No pretzel.
Can't even eat a key.
That was a tough space.
it's very easy to lose. I found, unfortunately, this game. Like you just get caught, especially when your pills were wearing off, between two ghosts that are just slightly too close together.
Does the pillow always spawn on the right side?
It seemed to spawn on whichever side was furthest from you when your pill ran out.
So you want to go towards the center if possible.
In principle, yeah.
So there's the way the ghost spawns are absolutely predicated by how you're doing it. So when you're doing this, they're always in the same spot. So there's absolutely ways that you can kind of...
If they get synced up, then you can get them every time.
There's absolutely a play style that will make you win, but...
Well, there's definitely... So sometimes the ghosts will be less far apart than you are wide. So there can sometimes be no safe spot for you to get. You are doing much better than I ever did, John. Wow.
I just really like how much juice there is to this. Like when you're doing your run and the fact that the score counter moves across the screen like that is a nice detail. Yeah. It's just little stuff like that. You know, it's by necessity very clean and simple, but it's got a lot of subtlety put into it in order to give it a richer depth of gameplay than you'd otherwise have. It's doing a lot with just a few elements.
I don't think we'll make it to see. I don't think we'll make it to see 250 points here, but it's pretty cool.
Do you think the timing of the power pellet is based on the vertical movements? Like now that they're going very slow, you have the longest amount of time, but as they get faster and faster, that's what's actually affecting length of the power pellet.
I think it's computed based on your score.
Yeah, I would. That's what it felt like.
Well, if they might both be computed by that in the same.
The score updating as it scrolls up is very nice.
Yeah.
I was pointing that out earlier.
I was too
Try
concentrated.
to kiss Ghost.
On an implementation level, I would like to note that this is, as far as I can tell, instruction-wise, this would work on a stock VIP. But it is running a bit faster than you would be able to on that platform. And part of that is because this is one of the games that is taking the approach of clearing the display and redrawing it entirely every time. So it kind of needs that extra boost of speed. It might be possible to get something like this ported over, but I think it would be very challenging to have smooth gameplay if you sort of gave that up, because you're moving 5 to 6 objects on the screen at once.
Yeah.
And that's a little tricky. Every one of those has to be an individual sprite draw.
Because with Super Chip, you can't scroll down on Super Chip, but you can scroll up. I can't remember which way it is. But you could use that kind of thing. But again, that's not available on the VIP. And sometimes with this kind of thing, everything on the screen is moving.
Yeah.
Undrawing it and drawing it in the new moved position, in principle, is twice as long as clearing the screen and drawing it once. But I know that there's some issue with the Cosmec where it
the
waits.
possibility that you have is the fact that since things are moving vertically, you would have the option to use the XOR shift approach, where you have a mask that represents the delta. The width of object stays the same every time, but you would have basically one sprite that is erasing and redrawing at a lower position every frame.
Right, yes, yeah.
But you can't use that technique on Pac-Man because he's moving horizontally, and I think that Pac-Man is already 8 pixels wide.
Yeah, he might be, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, he looks... No, he might be 7, actually.
Yeah, if he's 7, then it's possible.
Yes.
But basically, you end up having to, bake out the original and delta versions of all your sprites. There's a little bit more bookkeeping to deal with.
He's 7.
But, getting this to work on stock hardware is only one angle that you can take in trying to compete here. And this game is already highly successful just from a gameplay perspective, so...
no complaints.
For sure.
Yeah, something like if you could get them drawing on ghost wibbles first as well, rather than appear fully formed at the top of the screen, would give you just that short moment extra to recognize the danger.
All right, that was cool.
So this is by Ninja Weedle. This is basically a like a test program for a Chip 8 emulator that Ninja Weedle worked on. And so this is technically an S-chip program, because it actually uses a low-res instruction at the beginning that I don't think is strictly necessary, because otherwise it's a stock VIP compatible program. But he was just using this as a proof of concept title screen sort of thing that's loaded in the emulator when it first starts up. And so this is our smallest submission this year, clocking in at only 77 bytes.
Neat.
Yep. The last game we have to play is Beware of Snake. This is returning champion Kratmang, who brought us Octo Party Mix. And
is there a way to get rid of the controller overlay?
You need to refresh the page and don't just click on it once. Those are the touch controls activating. And so this is kind of an adventure game. The graphics look fantastic. It takes a little bit of fiddliness in some of the rooms to figure out where you're supposed to be able to go. But basically, you're exploring this maze, and you're collecting these snake eggs. And there's a kind of inconsistent mechanic around the snake getting angry at you and trying to chase you from room to room. Um, but I just absolutely love the visuals for this thing, and it produces a really nice sense of actually exploring a place.
Yeah, these are neat rooms and neat. Like this looks like a lighting concept where the shading behind them, they're blocking the incoming light, which is interesting because it seems to be flipping the sprites for shading on the sprite as well.
And what I was kind of surprised by is the fact that it's a pretty big map to explore with a lot of rooms, but the whole game is still only taking up about 13.5 kilobytes. So it's not exhausting all of the space available.
I think I played this one for a bit, and I did eventually get eaten by the snake. That's a
It seems
snake.
kind of random. I explored it. I played through a few times. See those weird blocky things that are animating on the right there. I think those are supposed to be the snake, like chasing you. If you end up touching them, then it'll kill you. It has a very anxiety-inducing sound effect thing that sort of ramps up as you collect more and more eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that's a spooky snake.
You walk so slowly.
I do, yeah.
In this room in particular, I was having a lot of trouble like working my way through the collision on that one for some reason.
Is it a 4x4 map?
I think so.
Because I thought there might be a way to get into the right side of this room, but it doesn't seem like there is.
Yeah, well, there's a line of green pixels across it, so
I think that picture is supposed to be a mirror, and it tells you where there are invisible obstacles.
Oh.
Which, if you think about it, for a program that generally uses graphics to do collision detection,
I think there was an egg to the north, John.
I'm kind of surprised this can go with CGA.
Oh yeah, there is.
Well, this is kind of a signature color scheme. I mean, I think this is pretty similar to the colors used in Kretmann's first game.
It'd be nice to know my progress.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
And a map screen again. A little cheeky map screen button would be good.
You're in the garbage room. Or the laundry room for snakes, but they probably don't have too much laundry.
Is there a way to like get rid of the snake? Or like chase or like,
Yeah, I'm trying to so there's like
throw it off?
On most of these rooms, is the snake actually following you? Is it like
That's the idea, is that it's stalking you through this maze even though you can't see it. And it is sort of a non-Euclidean horror beast, so it's not bound by the rules of physical passability.
I feel like mini snakes, like
See, there's snake.
It does exist. Not that you would necessarily identify it as being a snake when you see it.
Yeah, the thing is that, as I understand it, it is entirely possible for it to just like decide to spawn in a room as you're walking in, and you just get killed by it.
Just like a real snake.
Just like a real snake, it can just be there. It can just kill you.
Gosh, this noise is very obnoxious.
Yeah.
I mean, it puts you on edge, right? It's having the desired psychological impact.
Where's the egg? You know, you're kind of an egg yourself. Like, maybe you have to collect yourself?
I mean, you're at the very least, you're sort of a yoke.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought maybe was the audio tied to the snake proximity, and it just seems to keep going up and up and up based on how many eggs you have collected.
Right.
Or hypothetical snake madness indicator. But,
I can already hear the gears turning in your mind as you're thinking about whether or not you could create an Alien versus Predator game based on a similar principle.
Oh no.
You've got your proximity sensor, and you're walking around on the
Boy.
Nostromo.
Oh no. What have you done? What could be up the
I think there
ladder?
might be one up top that like go up and then go to the right from here.
Yeah, the snake was in that room, so you've avoided it for a while.
Oh, I'm not sure that's how that works. Keep going right.
Yeah, I think there might be a room right of this one that we didn't go
Yeah.
into because he was
The
on this
snake
one.
was there. Yeah. So you've avoided it.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
There's an egg.
Oh,
Egg.
There you go.
eggs!
Victory.
The poor
Okay.
snake.
Mhm.
Well, there you go. Beware a snake. All right, I think that's everything.
That is everything.
All right, you want to bring us home, IJ?
Yeah, well, everybody who participated in this jam, as always, did a fantastic job. I'm glad that so many people spent their time building cool stuff for this interesting old platform. Winners all around. Thanks to my co-hosts here for playing all the games and providing color commentary. Thanks to whoever is going to be watching this stream in the future. I hope that you had a good time, and I hope that you'll join us again next year for the Octo Jam 10. And I guess the other little ad that I'd like to give is that if you enjoyed working with Octo and you'd like to play with something similar to it, I just released another tool called Decker that you can find on my itch.io. It's the same kind of system in that it's a self-contained development environment where you have everything that you need to make games and experiences, but with kind of looser technical requirements, and you can make more elaborate graphics with it. And there's a possibility, if there's enough interest, that we might do another annual jam based on that tool too. We'll see. Anyway, thanks again to everybody who participated. This is a fantastic year, and I look forward to seeing what happens next year.
Absolutely. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya, folks!
Bye.
Thank you for taking part. Bye bye.
Games!